Hello and welcome to this new video. This time I'm going to show you an easy way to create a city rig using geometry nodes and some small but useful tricks that you could use. Let's get started. For this video I'm going to use a simple extruded planes as my building because this is more about making a quick city than a complicated building. You could use any building shape that you want. The first thing that we need to do is to move the mouse to the outliner and make a new collection with the right click. This collection is going to be called buildings. Now, we need to select our buildings and move them inside the buildings collection. Then, go back to the 3D viewport, press Shift A and add a new grid. Go to the grid properties and increase the size to 10. Let's now go to View, Area and select one option to split the viewport. On this new view, switch the editor type to Geometry Nodes Editor. With the grid selected, click on New to start. Inside the editor, press Shift 8S, type Instance and add a point instance to the nodes. Shift 8S again, type Scale and add a point scale behind the instance node. Let's go to the point instance and switch from Object to Collection. Uncheck Whole Collection and add the Buildings collection there. Use the point scale to make the buildings smaller until they have a space in between. Now, as you can see, we have a perfect block with instances. So let's make it a bit messy. For this, go back to the Geometry Nodes Editor, press Shift 8S, type Dist and add a point distribute behind the scale node. Switch from random to Poisson disk, then adjust the distance so you don't have overlapped objects. And also adjust the density. Tweak those two values until you have something that you like. You could also change the seed for a different building location. Now let's change the building size. To do that, press Shift 8S and type Randomize to add an attribute Randomize behind the Distribute node. Switch that to Vector, change the minimum to 1 twice and 0.500. Then change the last max to 2.1 and the attribute to Scale. One thing that you can notice now is that all the buildings are facing the same axis. So let's change that a bit. Let's go back to the editor and press Shift 8S, type Random and add an attribute Randomize in front of the Distribute node. Change the node to Vector, the attribute to Rotation 1 in lower cases, and the last max vector to 5.800. Now press Shift 8S, type Vector and add an attribute Vector Mat in front of your randomized node. Switch it to Snap and B to Vector. Inside A, type Rotation 1, inside Result, type Rotation, and inside the last vector, type minus 1.550. As you can see now, some buildings have 90 degrees rotation. You could use the seed to change the location for these ones too. And as you can see, we basically have the city complete. If you want to add something like some text in between the buildings, you could use an empty or the text to make some buildings disappear. To do this, move close to the first randomize and press Shift 8S, type Mix and add an attribute Mix node. After that, go back to the 3D viewport, press Shift 8 and add an empty, a bit big. Select the city and go to the Mix node. Switch the flow to attribute and B to vector. Go to the 3D viewport, press Tab to go to Edit mode, press A to be sure that it's all selected, and go to Object Data Properties to create a new vertex group. Add a name and click Assign. Tap to go back to Object mode, go to the Mix node Type the same name inside the factor as the vertex group. Type a scale inside the A and inside the result. Now let's go to the modifier, add modifier vertex weight proximity. Move that above the geometry nodes. Select the vertex group name. Use the empty as the target. Change the lowest to 1.1 and the highest to 1. As you can see, everything disappears if you move the empty. But we could switch the proximity mode to geometry, and as you can see, just a small area is disappearing if you move the empty. That small area is controlled by the lowest and the highest. So you could change that to have a different result. And now you could add a text over there. Let's say that you don't want to use a flat surface for the city. So let's try with a rounded cube. Press Shift 8 and add a rounded cube. If you don't have these options, you just need to go to Edit, Preference, Add-ons, and type Extra Mesh and turn it on. Add your rounded cube and change it to Quad Sphere. Tap to go to Edit mode and S to make it bigger. Tap again to go back to Object mode. I'm going to select the grid and change the name of the geometry nodes to City. Select the Quad Sphere, add a new geometry nodes, switch it to the one used by the grid, and click on the number 2. As you can see now, the mix node of the empty is not working. So let's fix it. First, tap to go to Edit mode and A to select everything. Go to the Object Data Properties and create a vertex group with the same name as in the node and assign. Let me turn off the grid. Now let's go to the modifier, add the vertex weight proximity above the geometry nodes, add the vertex group, the empty as a target, change the mode if you want to, and play with the lowest and the highest as we previously did. After that, move the empty away from the city. With a shape like this, we probably want the buildings to be placed on the sphere's normal, so it's not pointing all the buildings to the same direction. So let's fix that. Move the geometry editor in between the vector attribute and the point scale. Press Shift 8S and type Align. Add an align rotation to vector, but without the connection. Press Shift D to duplicate the align node and connect those two. Go to the first align node, switch it to Y, the pivot to Z, change the vector to attribute, and inside that, type normal. Go to the second one, switch it to Z, pivot to X, vector to attribute, and type normal too. Finally, connect the attribute vector and the point scale to those two. And that's basically it. I hope you liked this video. Make sure to subscribe and share, and I will see you next time. Bye.